Hello everybody. If you've watched my other videos, then you know that I focus on vintage American Flyer trains, primarily from the A.C. Gilbert era. I thought I'd do something different in this video and take a few minutes to show a few other things that I have that you might find a bit interesting. Many of these are recent family heirlooms, and some will show one of my other passions, which is history. I really appreciate everything that A.C. Gilbert did for the model train hobby. My first exposure to model trains was this set, which my mom got for my dad for their first anniversary. But A.C. Gilbert had a very good business going well before he took over the American Flyer production line. Gilbert was doing STEM long before that acronym came along. He did that with products such as his microscope sets, his chemistry sets, and his classic Erector sets. This is the 8.5 Erector set that my dad got in the 1930s. You can see that the case looks a bit empty because I made a power unit with this set, which I use on some of my train layouts. You may have seen it in the background in several of my videos. One thing that I really like about the Erector set is its manual. It's full of items that can be made by various Erector sets, some very simple and some very elaborate. The interesting thing about the manual is that there are no step-by-step instructions. The manual has suggestions for certain procedures, but other than that, all you get is a picture, and then you have to figure out how to build it. This is the picture that I used to build the power plant, and this is how it came out. It was frustrating at times, but getting the final product to work was very rewarding, and I really enjoy putting these great A.C. Gilbert products together on the same layout. I have a few other vintage railroad-related toys, such as these old plastic vehicles that are Tootsie, Auburn, and Plasticville. I also have some vintage Plasticville buildings. This cabin and church are from the 1950s, and the church was on my dad's train layout. This Switchman's Tower, post office, and people are also 1950s Plasticville. These specific buildings weren't on my dad's layout, but he had identical buildings which, unfortunately, are now lost, so I bought these replacements when I saw them in an antique store. The station and bridge in this picture also belonged to my dad, but the other items were produced and purchased more recently. Another interest of mine is stereoscopes. Stereoscopes are the forerunner of the Viewmasters that so many of us grew up with and are still available today. Stereoscopes first came out in the mid-1800s and were still made in the 1930s. I was first exposed to one when I was very young because my grandparents had one that they would let us get out when we visited. I wasn't able to get theirs when they sold it, but I've collected these over the years along with over 900 cards ranging from the 1870s to the 1930s. They tell a lot about how people lived at those times, and I think they're very fascinating. I also have some of the toys that my siblings and I played with when we were growing up on our farm. Tonka is still making toys, but unfortunately, some other great companies like Structo, TrueScale, and Wyandotte are no longer in business, but they sure made some great toys during their time. You can probably tell that some of these toys were well played with, which is okay because that's what they were intended for. I'm especially fond of this cattle truck. I've seen similar trucks in antique stores, but I haven't seen any others that have the original cattle, so this is very special to me. The next slides show some cast iron toys that belonged to my dad, but he didn't have these when he was a child. He bought these later in life. They were in pretty rough shape when I got them, so I cleaned the grime and rust off the best I could without taking off any more paint, and then, based upon a suggestion from a local antique dealer, I sprayed them with WD-40. That really brought them back to life. I used this horse and carriage set in my 2021 Christmas video. I also enjoy these tin toys that I believe are from the 1950s. The trolley has a bell inside that rings as the wheels roll. These pen and pencil sets, which contain several fountain pens, belong to my mom, and I think they are from the 1940s. In this close-up, you can see that the band on one pen has my mom's first name on it, and the band on another pen has her maiden name engraved on it. I don't know if you can find fountain pen and mechanical pencil sets like this anymore. Some of you might recall playing with the tops and marbles like these. The picture also includes an old razor and my dad's baseball glove from the early 1930s. I also used this glove when I first started to play catch, so maybe that's part of the reason that I now throw left-handed. Maybe I would have anyway, but I've always wondered if this was one factor. This old horse race game is one that we would play with when we visited my grandparents. This board game also belonged to them, but I don't remember ever playing it. I've read the instructions, and it seems to be a board version of Chinese checkers. I'll have to get a few people together sometime to give it a try. I don't know the background of this clock, but I've had it for a long time, and it does work. Unfortunately, the chime can get a bit irritating, so I don't wind it up, but it does work, and the cabinet is beautiful. This cabinet Victrola combines my interests of history and music. I have several hundred old 78 RPM records, some of which have quite a bit of history attached to them. So that's not everything, but that's enough for now. I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to reading any memories you might want to share in the comments section. Thanks for watching.